Hello, I'm Barry Osborne and I'm the CEO of Rural Mission Solutions. I've dedicated my life to ministry and mission in rural areas and have worked with hundreds of village churches all over the UK. I'm conscious that for many of us, the issue of mission is a little daunting, sometimes perhaps because of our limited resources, but sometimes because of the particular issues of rural cultures. So in Rural Mission Solutions, we aim to help rural churches to overcome some of these difficulties and find ways of sharing the gospel in ways that are appropriate and easy to do with limited resources. This is just one of these. It's a very simple video looking at harvest and asking, can we make it more missional? This is actually an extract from one of our special webinars, more of that in a moment. But I hope you will find some ideas in this video that you can put into practice in your church. So let's get into this focus on harvest. I mentioned that it was actually an adapted extract from one of our webinars. Now, we hold a number of webinars. Some of them are information webinars on rural mission. Some of them are training. And we are gradually building up a library on YouTube of these recorded webinars, and are always working on making these better and covering topics that people want us to cover. We'd love to hear from you if you have any suggestions, and if you'd like to engage with these webinars, well, why not sign up for it on our website? And usually helping me with these presentations is Gordon Banks. You've just got me today, but normally Gordon Banks, who's an experienced retired now Church Army officer who has worked with 3 Anglican dioceses, and the two of us make a balanced picture because I'm an ordained free church minister. I've been active in rural mission for the whole of my life, but I also research, write and teach on the subject as well. Now, if you found us on YouTube, very quickly say, please remember to like us. When you finish watching the video, do click on the thumbs up. And if you want to keep in touch, subscribe to the channel. And if you click on the little bell, you'll get notified every time a new video is added to our YouTube channel. If you haven't found that, why not go to YouTube and look up Rural Mission Solutions. Now, the idea of seasonal webinars was something that Gordon was very keen to introduce, focuses on certain times of the year and helps us to reflect on what's actually happening around the church, which has its own cycle that runs obviously from Christmas all the way through to Ascension. So we've got all of these things happening in the church. How can we relate these activities to what's happening in the world around us? And in that connection, we might think internationally. So major events like the Olympics, or nationally, there may be issues to do with politics, or county-wide or local in our village. There may be things that we can tie our mission activities to and make them part of these various things. And we've got 4 of these seasonal ones that we run. You'll find them, the recordings of these are actually on our website. And so we look at different months. So autumn one looked at September, October, November, and that is where we included harvest. And the idea is to harmonize mission with the events going on and relate the events going on to our mission, and to treat these things not so much as an intrusion, but as an opportunity. So maybe something that's dominating the news, it's on the television all the time. Well, why not find ways of relating that to your church mission? Now, one of the things we're very keen to present is that the aim of mission is to be a blessing of others, be God's instrument to bless others. It's not about growing our numbers. It's not about balancing our books. It's not about solving the problems that we have. This is about our giving our lives into God's hands to share in his mission. And he longs to bless others. The work is his. We are merely here to help him. And we should not be intimidated by the context in which we work or the limited resources. Remember the story of the feeding of 5,000. One disciple was overwhelmed by the huge number of people that needed to be fed. Another one could only see how small the supply was, but Jesus knew what he was going to do. So let's focus on harvest. And the first thing is we're going to is, can you make it more missional? So here are some questions. Why do we do it? Why do we have a harvest celebration each year? Now, increasingly in our society in the UK, we've become remote from agriculture. So often, if you were to ask young people, where does milk come from? They'll probably say Sainsbury's rather than cows. So, why do we do it? What's it all about? Is it to remind people about dependence on agriculture? Is it a celebration of God's faithfulness? Why do we do it? And is it just something for the church? Is it just something for those who come to church and believe in God? Or is it something for others? Do we want other people to share in an awareness of God's faithfulness and a gratitude for his provisions? Well, I'd like to hope we would think it was. And if we did that, then what would we do would relate to why we're doing it and who it's it for. So what do you usually do at harvest? And is that merely saying it's just for you in church? It's just for those of you who go Sunday by Sunday? Or maybe just something that you do to encourage a few more people to come to church? So what do you do? And are you willing to change when you sit down and think about why you're doing it, who it's for, and what you do? Would you be willing to consider some change? Now, one of the things we want to emphasize is taking your partners. And the first of these things is to talk about ecumenical relationships. Now, I don't know what your denomination is, but I want to ask, do you have incorporate other churches in your plans for harvest and other key times in the year? Far too often churches go ahead with their plans and they don't take into consideration that there are other churches. Now, they would claim to be ecumenical and recognize that we're all one in Christ, but the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So before you finalize your harvest plans, find out what your neighbors are doing. What are their harvest plans? What dates do they want to use and things like that? So think through very carefully how you relate your plans to your neighbors so that you tell the people in your community that we are not churches in competition, but partners in God's mission. And then what about the local school? If you've got a village school or a neighbouring village school, what about their engagement in harvest? Often schools will do something and maybe link, and especially if it's a church school, there'll be a link with harvest. So why not incorporate them in the planning and think things through? And what about other organisations, perhaps Women's Institute or some other activities that go on in your village? Could they somehow be engaged? Now, for example, if there was drama or music, is there some way in which they could share? And what about the wider community? What about seeking to engage widely? Now, I'm going to give you some ideas in which you might do that. For instance, in the decorating of your church, why not publicize the date and the time when you're going to do it and invite people to contribute ideas as well as come and help put things up? What about talking to the people in the pub? A very good situation arose in one village in which I was involved, in which on the Saturday they wanted to have a hog roast and do something special. So on the Saturday there was a marquee at the pub, and the church backed that up and supported that. And then they said, would you like to use these facilities on the Sunday? So the harvest celebration that year was actually held in the marquee at the pub and got a tremendous turnout and has resulted in someone regularly coming to church. So think about that. What about the focus on the farm? That's another important thing. Now, one of the things you could do is you could hold a harvest barbecue or hog roast. That might make a change from your usual harvest meal. And if you were going to do something, why not hold it on a farm? Again, in another village in which I was involved, the harvest celebration in that village was often held in the barn of a farm that was mostly involved in growing apples. And so that was very special. And people sat with the boxes of apples all around them, lovely smell of apples. And it was a great environment in which to hold a harvest service. What about the pub? I've come up with an idea already about that. And what about using a garden? If there's somebody with a big garden, maybe you could hold a barbecue or hog roast and do some of your harvest celebrations, if not all of them, outside your church. Now, one of the things that is also a valuable thing is linking what you're doing at harvest to a good cause. I'm going to mention several of these. So the first of these is the Farming Community Network, was called Farm Crisis Network, now Farming Community Network, and they do tremendous work supporting people who are in farming who are often in enormous stress for all sorts of reasons. And they have a continuing ministry to people. They're doing amazing work all over the UK. And if you were to contact them and find out whether there's anybody in your area that might be able to come and say something about the work they do as part of a harvest service or around a harvest meal, that's wonderful. But they have other resources available. So go and look at their website, fcn.org.uk, and see what's available. What about linking it with a local food bank? Now, it may be that you are already a local collection point, but if not, could you, if there isn't one in your village, could you become a collection point for food bank? Now, people are now familiar with food bank and what they do, but may not know the extent of the work or would like to hear some of the stories anonymously about it. So again, a possible speaker and other resources that you could have if you tied your harvest plans to your local food bank. And overseas aid is another aspect. So organizations such as Christian Aid have harvest programs. If you go to their website, you'll find a harvest site. So Google Christian Aid and see what's available there. And they'll talk about creative worship ideas, all age talks, sermon notes, all sorts of things that are there, all free, and that could make a world of difference, not just in the celebration of your harvest, but also to people in areas that are impoverished. Now, I mentioned earlier British Food Fortnight. In 2019, it's the 21st of September to the 6th of October, and the website is lovebritishfood.co.uk, and it's about a celebration of British food. There's all sorts of interesting things on that website. It's not specifically Christian, but there's certainly something there that you could link with. Now, whatever you're going to do, whatever special events you're going to put on, I want to say, please use good publicity. CPO, the Christian Publicity and Outreach Organization, produce all sorts of posters and leaflets that you can use throughout the course of the year, but they always include special occasions such as harvest. So find out what their range of posters and leaflets are and have some quality publicity. You know, very often we do things on the cheap in our rural churches, and that's not a credit to us. So see if there's something there that you could use on this occasion. They'll allow you to do overprinting on many of their posters and leaflets as well. And then Hope Together. Your church may already be linked up with it, but they've got a new publication out, and it's ideal for giving away. It's incredibly cheap, but full of wonderful stories, a wonderful way of sharing the gospel, putting something into people's hands that explains something of the Christian gospel without you actually having to stand there and preach it to them. So here is a wonderful way. Put on these events, get people coming in, give them a gift, and share the gospel in that way. So again, the link on the website is there. Sorry. Other ideas? Well, why not have a special meal? Now, you may usually have a harvest Thanksgiving meal. Don't know what you do or where you do it, but what about making it a bit more special? And maybe if you can find a particularly good speaker who might come along and give a talk for no more than 10 minutes, or you might focus on one of the charity organizations or the food bank, or those things that I've already mentioned, somebody to give a little talk. So why not, instead of putting it on in your church hall, why not put it on at a local hotel and make it very, very special? That would take a huge amount of pressure off people in your church who normally have to do the meal. So you could do that, and then make sure that there are some nice invitation cards, and that everybody in your church makes a point of bringing guests to this event. Obviously, they'd need to book in advance if it's at a hotel, but make more of your harvest meal. Could you put on an exhibition in your church hall relating to harvest. And that's where the schools might be useful. They might have a poster competition at the school, and you could put that on as part of the exhibition. You could ask different organisations in the village to contribute to it. Could you put on a concert? So again, coming back to the fact there may be in your village, there may be a drama group or there may be musical people. And can you put a team together and think, what would a harvest concert look like? And see if you could put on something special. And then if you're involved in Flicks in the Sticks, you could find an appropriate film. If you're not involved in Flicks in the Sticks, please Google Flicks in the Sticks and find out how it works. And if you'd like to know more about how to use that as a church, then why not drop me an email? I'd be pleased to answer your questions. Now, when we're thinking about harvest, obviously we think families and family activities. So what are you going to plan for families? Could you use some of the Message Church material? Now, they've got lots of resources available, and I want to commend that to you. A lot of craft activity. If you go on their website, you'll find all sorts of things that are useful there. So look out for Messy Church and see if you can put something on. Now, if you're already doing Messy Church, you do that easily. If you're not doing Messy Church, don't feel that you can't adapt the Messy Church concept in some way and just do a one-off. You can do that, and you can run a plan. And if you don't have the people to do these things, if you're working ecumenically, maybe between you and other churches, you'll find enough people, resources to do it. And if you don't have it immediately to hand, contact your local churches together and see if there are resources that you could borrow for your special occasion. So plan big, plan big, try great things. Now, there are lots of other ideas and lots of resources available. So if you go to ruralmissionsolutions.org.uk, you'll find in there a section focus on autumn, which will include harvest, and look at what's available. If you go to Germinate, used to be known as the Arthur Rank Centre, go to their website, again, lots of resources, worship material, and so on for harvest. So we really want to commend those things to you. And we also want to ask you, when you put on special events, always to point forward. What else is coming up? Now, this is something that happens every day. We're familiar with it if we watch the television. They're constantly trailing what is coming. They do that so that they grow the audience for further events. So this is your opportunity. If you've got new people coming, sitting around tables at a harvest meal or at a harvest concert or at your harvest service, why not make a point of saying that they're very welcome. It's lovely to see them, and we hope that we'll see you again. Do feel free to come regularly. We'd love to see you any Sunday, but don't forget, we've got other important things coming along. Now, thinking about that, what is coming along and how might you do things? So watch out for further information. You'll find some of it on our recorded autumn webinars, but aspects at Halloween doesn't have to be scary. We can use this as a gospel opportunity. Bonfire night, most churches don't engage with bonfire night, and I don't know why. Villages tend to love bonfire night and have fireworks, all sorts of things. Could the church supply refreshments? That would be a great way of engaging with the wider community and showing that you're generous and kind. Why not offer to do the clearing up afterwards? So ways in which you could share. And then, of course, Remembrance Sunday. Well, are there ways in that way that could be refreshed? Again, drawing on my experience as a village minister, we partnered with our local history group and researched into the names that were on the memorial and that we read out each year, and we found stories that related to them. One aspect in that particular village was the fact that two aircraft had collided over the village in the war. There was a Canadian crew on one bomber and a British crew on another. One was going out to bomb, the other was returning, and they collided over the village, all were killed. And so we had a special exhibition. We even found the tail fin of one of the planes, and we put on a huge exhibition in our church and drew large crowds of people. We even had people come over from Canada for that. So ways in which you could make that work for you. Now, it's a good time of the year for starting courses, so things to help people get into knowing more about Christianity. Alpha, of course, and Christianity Explored. You can find their websites. And for those who are already part of our church, why not think in terms of running the video-based Bible course, which comes from the Bible Society, and is an excellent course helping people to understand how the different books in the Bible, 66 books written over such a long period of time, how do they build up to give us one picture about God? Well, it's an excellent course. I commend it to you. Now, do feel free to contact us if you want more ideas or want to share your ideas. We're always looking for new ideas or new topics for our webinars. So please get back to us with your response. Go and visit the website www.ruralmissionsolutions. Have a look around that and see if there are other ways in which we can be of help to you.